The sun was just rising over Luminara City, casting a soft glow on the tall buildings. Birds were chirping in the quiet streets, and a few cars moved slowly. My name is Patience, and this is a story about a woman who is not human, a woman with power to end everything, but she chose love, became a wife, and obeyed one man until the day everything began to break. In a small, well-kept house, the morning was calm and peaceful. Inside, Leora moved quietly in the kitchen. She carried a small tray with 2 cups of tea and some bread. She wore a simple dress, and her hair was tied back. She looked ordinary, but there was something about her calm movements that made the house feel alive. Marcus was sitting at the small dining table. His shirt was slightly untucked, and his hair was messy from sleep. He yawned and stretched. "Good morning," he said, his voice still low with sleep. "Good morning," Leora said softly, placing the tray in front of him. She smiled, but it was a gentle, careful smile. "I made your tea just the way you like it." Marcus picked up the cup and sipped it. "You always take care of me so well," he said. "I don't know how I got so lucky." Leora's smile stayed soft. "I just want you to be happy," she said. "Nothing else matters." Marcus looked at her for a long time. He didn't know why, but there was something about her presence that made him feel calm. He reached for her hand, and she let him hold it. Her fingers were warm and soft. "Leora," he said quietly, "sometimes I feel like I don't deserve all of this. You make everything perfect. I feel small next to you." Leora squeezed his hand gently. "Marcus, you are not small," she said. "I chose you. You are the most important person in my life. Everything else, it doesn't matter." Marcus smiled, but there was a small worry in his eyes. "But you always put me first, even when it is not easy for you." Leora shook her head slowly. "It is easy because I love you. That is enough for me." She moved to the counter and started preparing breakfast. Marcus watched her silently. She moved with a grace that seemed natural, but it was more than natural. She had strength, control, and a calm that could fill any room. Marcus did not know that Leora was not human. She was a goddess. She had powers that could destroy cities, control the world, even change life and death itself. But she did not use her powers for herself. She used them to make their life simple and happy. Bills were always paid before they were due. Food never ran out. Their small home always felt safe and comfortable. Marcus never worried about anything, and he did not know why. Leora returned to the table with a plate of bread and eggs. "Eat," she said softly. "You need energy for today." Marcus looked at her, a small frown on his face. You do so much for me. Sometimes I wonder if you are really human." Leora laughed softly, a quiet, gentle sound. "I am human, Marcus, just like you. But inside," she smiled to herself. She could have ended the world with a thought, but here, she chose to be simple. She chose to love him, and nothing else mattered. They ate breakfast together, slowly. Marcus told her about a meeting he had at work, a problem with a client. Leora listened carefully, nodding and giving advice when she could. She made him feel understood, and he leaned on her words like they were solid ground. After breakfast, Marcus stood up and stretched. "I should get ready," he said. "It's going to be a long day." Leora walked him to the door. She kissed his cheek gently. "Have a good day," she said. "And remember, I will always be here for you." Marcus smiled, a little embarrassed. "I know. I feel it every day." When he left, Leora stood by the door for a moment. She looked at the empty street outside. For anyone else, she was just a simple, loving wife. But she was more than that. She had power beyond the imagination of any human. And yet, she obeyed him completely. She chose to be small in his world, even though she could be the most powerful being alive. Later that morning, Naomi came to visit. She knocked lightly on the door, and Leora opened it with a smile. "Good morning, Naomi," she said. "Good morning, Leora," Naomi replied, stepping inside. "How are you today?" Marcus still asleep. "Yes, he just left for work," Leora said, closing the door. "I made him breakfast." Naomi looked around the house. "It's so peaceful here. I don't know how you do it. Marcus must be so happy." Leora smiled softly. "He is," she said. But inside, she thought about her secret. No one could know who she really was. Not Naomi. Not Marcus. She was a goddess, and she had given up everything to be with him. They sat down together, drinking tea and talking quietly. Leora laughed at Naomi's small stories, and for a moment, the world felt completely normal. But deep inside, Leora felt the quiet weight of her choice. She could have power, control, even glory. But here, in this small house, she had chosen love. She touched her chest lightly and whispered to herself, "I obey because I love him. Nothing else matters." The morning passed slowly. Marcus worked. Naomi left after a few hours, and Leora cleaned quietly. Every action, every step, every smile was calm and controlled. She was powerful. She could do anything. But today, as always, she chose to be the perfect wife. She chose to obey. And in the quiet moments of the afternoon, when the house was empty, Leora sat by the window watching the city. She smiled softly. She could end everything if she wished. She could take anything, claim anything. But she did not. She had chosen Marcus, and she would always obey him without question. The next morning was quiet again, but something felt different. Leora stood by the window, her eyes fixed on the road outside. Her face was calm, but inside, something was not right. She could feel it, a small shift, a moment that was about to go wrong. Behind her, Marcus was getting ready for work. He moved quickly, putting on his shirt and checking his phone. "Leora," he said, adjusting his collar. "Today is very important. I told you about the meeting, right?" "Yes," Leora said softly without turning. "You said it could change everything for your work." Marcus smiled. "Exactly. If this goes well, things will be better for us." Leora finally turned to face him. Her eyes were calm, but there was a quiet tension in them. "Marcus, don't go today." Marcus paused. He frowned. "What?" "Please," Leora said, walking closer to him. "Stay home today, or go later. Just don't go now." Marcus let out a small laugh. "What are you saying? I can't miss this meeting." "I know," she said quickly. "But something is not right. I feel it." Marcus shook his head. "Leora, you worry too much sometimes." "I am not worried," she said. "I am telling you something will happen." Marcus picked up his bag and sighed. "You don't even know what you're saying. This is real life, not feelings and guesses." Leora's expression changed slightly. "I am not guessing." Marcus looked at her more closely now. "Then what are you doing? Trying to control me?" The words landed hard. The room became quiet. Leora blinked slowly. "Control you?" "Yes," Marcus said. "You always do everything. You fix everything. You make everything easy. But today you want to decide if I go to work or not." "I am not trying to control you," Leora said, her voice still soft but deeper now. "I am trying to protect you." Marcus shook his head again, this time with frustration. "From what?" "Nothing is going to happen." Leora stepped closer. "Please, Marcus, just listen to me this one time." Marcus raised his voice slightly. "No, you listen to me. This meeting is important. I worked hard for it. I won't stay at home because of a feeling." Leora stood still. For the first time, her face showed something close to pain. "I am your wife," she said quietly, "and I am asking you don't go." Marcus looked at her, surprised by her tone. But instead of calming down, he became more stubborn. "And I am your husband," he replied. "And I have already decided. I am going." The words settled heavily between them. Leora lowered her gaze. She could stop him. She could make him stay with a single thought. She could change his mind, change the moment, even stop time itself. But she didn't. She took a slow breath. "All right," she said quietly. "If you must go, then I will come with you." Marcus frowned. "Why?" "Because I want to," she replied. "Please." Marcus hesitated, then shrugged. "Fine, but we are not late because of this." "I understand," Leora said. Minutes later, they were in the car. Marcus was driving, focused on the road. Leora sat beside him, her hands resting quietly on her lap. The city was busy now. Cars moved fast. People crossed the streets. Everything looked normal. But Leora's eyes kept shifting. She was watching something Marcus could not see. A moment ahead, a small space in time. She saw it clearly. A truck speeding from a side road. A driver not paying attention. A wrong turn. A crash. Her body became tense. "Marcus," she said softly. "Yes." "Slow down." "I'm fine," he replied. "Please." she said again. Just slow down. Marcus sighed. Leora, relax. I'm in control. Her fingers tightened slightly. Marcus, stop the car. What? He said, now annoyed. Why are you doing this again? Stop the car, she repeated. No, he said firmly. This is too much. Leora turned her head slowly toward the road ahead. The moment was getting closer. Everything inside her was ready to act. She could stop the truck. She could freeze the road. She could erase the moment completely. But her eyes moved to Marcus. He had chosen. He had refused her. And she had chosen something too. To obey him. Even now, the truck appeared. Fast. Too fast. Marcus! Leora shouted. Marcus looked up, his eyes widening. He tried to turn the wheel. Everything happened in seconds. The loud sound of metal. The sudden force. The car spinning. Then silence. The car stopped at the side of the road. Smoke rose slowly from the front. Leora sat still. Her breathing was calm. Her body was unharmed. Marcus groaned beside her. What just happened? Leora turned to him quickly. Marcus! I'm fine. I think, he said, holding his head. Outside, people began to gather. Voices filled the air. Leora looked at Marcus. Her eyes filled with emotion. She had seen it. She had warned him. She could have stopped it, but she didn't. Because she chose him. Because she obeyed him. And now, something had changed. For the first time since their marriage, her obedience had a cost. The sound of people talking outside slowly faded as the scene changed. The car was no longer on the road. It had been towed away. The small crowd had gone. The morning that started with peace had turned into something heavy and quiet. Now, Leora and Marcus sat inside a hospital room. The air smelled clean and cold. A small fan turned slowly above them. The white walls made everything feel empty. Marcus sat on the bed with a light bandage on his forehead. His shirt had been changed. He looked fine on the outside, but his face was not calm. He kept looking at Leora. Leora sat beside him. Her hands were folded gently on her lap. Her face looked normal again, soft and calm, like nothing had happened. But Marcus could not ignore it anymore. He stared at her for a long time before speaking. Leora! Yes, she replied softly. There was a pause. A long one. Marcus shook his head slowly. Something is not right. Leora did not speak. You told me not to go, Marcus continued. You said something would happen. Leora looked down slightly. I was worried. No, Marcus said quickly. Not worried. You were sure. Leora stayed silent. Marcus leaned forward a little. You said it like you knew. I didn't know, she replied quietly. Marcus let out a small breath. Then how did you say stop the car at the exact moment? Leora's fingers moved slightly, but she kept her voice steady. It was just instinct. Marcus shook his head again. No, it was not instinct. The room became quiet again. Marcus looked at her more deeply now, like he was trying to see something hidden behind her face. This is not the first time, he said slowly. Leora looked up at him. What do you mean? Marcus swallowed. Things are always too perfect. She said nothing. The bills are always paid. We never lack anything. Problems just disappear. He paused. Even at work, sometimes things just go my way in a strange way. Leora's eyes softened. Is that a bad thing? Marcus shook his head. I don't know anymore. He stood up slowly and walked a few steps away, then turned back to face her. Who are you, Leora? The question hung in the air. Leora felt it deeply, but her face remained calm. I am your wife. Marcus looked at her, almost hurt. That's not enough anymore. Silence filled the room again. Leora could feel it now. The moment she had been avoiding was getting closer. The truth was no longer something she could hide easily, but she still tried. Marcus, she said softly, you are tired. You just went through something serious. You should rest. Marcus laughed lightly, but there was no joy in it. No, don't do that. Do what? Don't make it simple, he said. Don't calm everything down like you always do. Leora looked at him quietly. I need answers, Marcus continued. Because what happened today, it doesn't make sense. He walked closer to her again. You saw it coming, he said. I could see it in your eyes. Leora's heart felt heavy, but she stayed silent. Marcus lowered his voice. And after the accident, you didn't panic. I was worried about you, she said. Yes, but you were calm, Marcus replied. Too calm. Leora looked away. Marcus's voice became softer now, but deeper. Leora, are you hiding something from me? She closed her eyes slowly. Inside her, something was breaking. Not anger, not fear, but the weight of her choice. The life she built with him was standing on something fragile, and now it was starting to crack. I didn't want this, she whispered. Marcus frowned. What do you mean? Leora opened her eyes and looked at him. This time, her eyes were different. There was something deeper inside them. Something not human. I didn't want you to find out like this, she said. Marcus stepped back slightly. Find out what? The room became very still. Her movement was calm, but something in the air changed. Marcus, she said softly. Everything you are asking has an answer. Marcus's chest rose slowly. Then tell me. Leora looked at him for a long moment. Her face was filled with emotion. Love, pain, fear of losing him. I love you, she said. Marcus swallowed. I know that, but that's not what I asked. I know, she replied, but it is the reason for everything. Marcus's voice became stronger. Leora, stop this. Just tell me the truth. There was a long silence. Then Leora took a small step forward. I am not human. Marcus froze. The words were simple, but they felt heavy. What? He said slowly. I am not like you, she continued. I never was. Marcus shook his head lightly. This is not funny. I am not joking, she said. Her voice was still calm, but now it carried something deeper. Marcus stared at her. Then what are you? Leora hesitated for a brief moment. Then she said it. I am a goddess. The room went completely silent. Marcus let out a short laugh, but it was filled with disbelief. No, this is not real. Leora did not move. Marcus pointed at her. You expect me to believe that? I don't expect anything, she said softly. I am just telling you the truth. Marcus stepped back again. His breathing changed. This is too much, he said. First the accident, now this. Leora looked at him with soft eyes. I have always been like this. Marcus shook his head faster now. No, that's not possible. Leora raised her hand slowly. The air in the room became still. The fan above them stopped moving. The small curtain by the window froze in place. Marcus's eyes widened. Leora lowered her hand gently. Everything remained still. No wind, she said quietly. No movement. Marcus looked around. His breathing became faster. Leora moved her fingers slightly. The fan started turning again. The curtain moved softly. Everything returned to normal. Marcus stepped back until he touched the wall. His voice was shaking now. What did you just do? Leora looked at him with pain in her eyes. Just a small part of who I am. Marcus's face changed completely. The confusion turned into fear. Real fear. You're not human, he whispered. Leora shook her head slowly. Marcus looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. All this time, he said, his voice low and broken. You've been lying to me. I didn't lie, she replied softly. I just didn't tell you everything. That is the same thing, Marcus said, his voice rising again. Leora flinched slightly, but she did not move away. I did it because I love you, she said. I left everything to be with you. Marcus laughed again, but this time it sounded empty. Left everything? Yes, she said. My world, my power, everything that I was. I gave it up to live like this. With you. Marcus shook his head slowly. No, this is not normal. I know, she said. You could have told me, he added. I was afraid, she replied. Afraid of what? That you would look at me like this, she said quietly. Marcus said nothing, because he was already doing it. He looked at her, and there was fear in his eyes. Not love, not comfort, fear. Leora felt it deeply, and for the first time since she came into his life, she realized something. Her greatest power could not control how he felt about her. And now, Marcus was scared of his own wife. The room was quiet again, but this time, it was not peaceful. It was heavy. Marcus stood close to the wall, his eyes fixed on Leora like he did not know her anymore. His breathing was slow, but not calm. His hands were slightly shaking. Leora stood in the middle of the room. She did not move closer. She did not speak. She just watched him, waiting for what he would do, waiting for what he would feel. Marcus finally spoke, but his voice was not strong like before. So, everything was real. Leora nodded slowly. Yes. All those times things worked out, it was you? Yes. Marcus looked down for a moment. Then he laughed softly, but there was no joy in it. So I was never in control. Leora shook her head quickly. No, you were. I never controlled you. Marcus looked up again. But you could have. There was a short silence. Yes, Leora said quietly. The answer hit him hard. Marcus turned away from her and walked a few steps, running his hand through his hair. This is too much, he said under his breath. This is not normal. This is not real. It is real, Leora said softly. I am still the same person you love. Marcus turned quickly. Are you? The question stayed in the air. Leora felt it deeply. Yes, she said. I am still the same Leora who wakes up early to make your breakfast. The same one who listens to you talk about your work. The same one who loves you. Marcus's eyes softened for a moment. Just a moment. But then he remembered. You let that accident happen, he said. Leora's heart felt heavy. I warned you. You could have stopped it, Marcus said, his voice rising. You said you could do anything. Leora took a small step forward. You told me to stop. You refused to listen to me. I chose to obey you. Marcus shook his head. That doesn't make sense. It does to me, she replied. Marcus stared at her. So you would let me get hurt just because I told you not to interfere? Leora's voice became deeper, filled with emotion. I chose to respect you. I chose to follow your will. I could have died, Marcus shouted. The words cut deep. Leora froze. For the first time, her calm broke slightly. Her eyes showed pain. Real pain. I would never let you die, she said softly. Never. Marcus looked at her, breathing heavily. Then what are you saying? He asked. That you decide how much danger is enough. That you choose when to step in. Leora did not answer immediately, because the answer was not simple. I am trying to live as your wife, she said slowly. Not as something above you. Marcus shook his head again. But you are above me. The words filled the room. Leora looked at him. I don't want to be, she said quietly. Marcus laughed again, but this time it sounded tired. You don't want to be? Leora, you stopped the air in this room. Leora lowered her gaze. I gave up everything to be here, she said. I chose you. I chose this life. Marcus's voice dropped now, softer but still filled with confusion. And what if I don't choose it? The question hit her harder than anything else. Leora looked up slowly. What do you mean? Marcus hesitated. His eyes moved away from her for a moment. I don't know if I can live like this, he said quietly. I don't know if I can be with someone I don't understand. The words were calm, but they carried weight. Leora felt it. Her chest tightened. You understand me, she said. You just found out more about me. No, Marcus replied. This changes everything. Leora took another step closer. It doesn't have to. It does, Marcus said, raising his voice again. You are not human. You are something else. Something. I can't even explain. Leora stopped walking. Her eyes filled with emotion, but she did not cry. Do you still love me? She asked softly. Marcus did not answer immediately, and that silence said everything. Leora felt it deeply. For the first time, she felt fear. Not fear of losing power, but fear of losing him. I am still me, she said quietly. Nothing about my love for you has changed. Marcus looked at her. His eyes were no longer just afraid. There was something else now. Conflict. I don't know what I feel, he said honestly. I'm trying to understand. Leora nodded slowly. Then understand this. Her voice became calm again. I will never use my power against you. Marcus frowned. You already used it for me. That is different, she said. I will never control you. I will never force you to stay. I will never make you love me. Marcus looked at her carefully. You're saying, I can leave. Leora's heart felt heavy again, but she nodded. Yes. Marcus was quiet. And you won't stop me? Leora shook her head slowly. No. Marcus stared at her, trying to understand. You have all that power, and you would still let me go? Leora looked at him with deep emotion. Yes, she said. Because if you stay, I want it to be your choice." The room became silent again. Marcus walked slowly to the chair and sat down. He placed his hands on his head, thinking deeply. Leora did not move. She just watched him. Time passed. Long minutes. Heavy silence. Then Marcus spoke again. "Show me," he said quietly. Leora frowned slightly. "Show you what?" "Your power," Marcus replied. "All of it." Leora's eyes changed. "Why?" "I need to understand who you really are," he said. "Not just words. I need to see it." Leora hesitated. "If I show you everything, it may change how you see me forever." Marcus looked at her. "It already has." Leora closed her eyes slowly. For a brief moment, the room felt different. Then she opened them again. "All right," she said softly. She raised her hand slowly. The lights in the room flickered. The air became still again. The walls seemed to vibrate slightly. Then something changed. The room around them shifted. Marcus looked around in shock. The hospital room was gone. They were no longer inside. They stood in a wide open space. Endless. Quiet. The sky above them was not normal. It was deep and vast. Marcus's breathing became faster. What is this?" Leora stood beside him. "Calm. Powerful. Different. This is a small part of my world," she said. Marcus turned to her slowly. For the first time, he saw her clearly, not just as his wife, but as something far beyond him. His eyes filled with fear again. "Leora," he whispered. But this time, he did not step closer. He stepped back, and that was the moment everything changed. Leora saw it. The distance, the fear, the space between them. She did not move. She did not reach for him, because she had made a promise to never force him, even now, even when it was breaking her. Marcus looked around again, lost, confused, afraid. Then he looked back at her. I need time," he said. Leora nodded slowly. "I understand." Marcus took another step back, then another, and then he turned away. Leora stood alone, in a world she revealed only for him. And now, he was walking away from her. Leora watched him leave. She did not stop him. She did not call his name. But deep inside, something began to change. Because for the first time, her love was not enough. And the question remained, if Marcus never comes back, will she still choose to obey? Or will the goddess finally choose herself? Thank you for watching this story. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like. Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more.